Hello world. Today, we'll explore how we can make our data frames appear side by side in Jupyter like this. So before we jump right into it, we need to know a couple of things. So first things first, let's say x is equals to hello. And if we put x at the end of our Jupyter cell, it will display. And this is because of the built-in display function. So this is the same if I want to do this. Next, let's try to display some HTML code in our Jupyter lab. So firstly, I'm going to import this from ipython.core.display import HTML. And after this, I'm going to create a string HTML. So let's just say h1 hello world. And if I display this currently, I'm just going to get a normal HTML string. However, if I use this HTML class, things will be different. So notice that this HTML class over here will actually convert our HTML string into actual HTML that we are displaying in our browser. So this actually works the same way for our data frames also. So firstly, let's just create a test data frame. And here we have it, a test data frame. So when we put our data frame at the end of our cell, we are actually calling the display function. And have you ever wondered why our data frame looks so nice in Jupyter? So before we jump into it, let's explore some stuff. So df.toHTML. So if I run this method, I'm going to get the HTML string of our supposed table over here. Next, let's add the HTML to convert this HTML string into actual HTML. And if we display, we will get the same table over here. So when we display our data frame, this is what is actually happening. So with this in mind, we can actually change the HTML over here, and we can change the way that our data frame will look. So let's try something for now. So here, I'm going to define a test, and it's going to take in a data frame. And HTML is f-string, and let's put our data frame here. So df.toHTML, and let's put it in a div. And to make things simpler, we can give our div a class. Let's just call it hello for now. And next, we display HTML and our HTML string. And if we run this test df, we will simply get back the same data frame table as just now. However, let's say we decide to add a bunch of other stuff. h1 hello h1. And if we do this, we will get our data frame but with an additional hello below. So now, let's say that we want to give our data frame a red background. So we can do that like this. So instead of adding a h1, we can add a style tag. And since our CSS class is hello, we do .hello to refer to this div. And .hello, and let's give a background color is red. And let's add a padding, let's say 20 pixels. And if we run this, we will get a red background. And this red background is due to this CSS code over here. Next, let's say that we want to change the text color to yellow and green. So once again, let's take a look at the HTML string. So here, notice that this is actually a HTML table, and the stuff in between are either th or td. So let's say th, which stands for table headers, will be blue in color, and td, which is table data, will be green in color. And if we run this, notice now that our td are green in color, while our th are blue in color. So here, by adding a style tag and editing the CSS code of our HTML string, we can actually make our data frames look very different. So for now, I'm going to remove this. And next, let's try to make two data frames appear side by side. So before we do that, let's try to make two h1s appear side by side. So x is equals to div, class is container, and let's say we have a h1, and next we have a h3. And if we display the HTML of our string, we will get this currently. So next, let's add a style tag. And since the CSS class here is container, we will use .container to refer to this div. And here, because we want our h1 and h3 to appear side by side, we do display is flex. And if we run this, we will get hello world and testing 1, 2, 3, and notice that they are side by side rather than one above another. So we can actually apply this to our data frames over here. So let's rename our function side by side, and let's have df1 and df2. So df1 HTML and similarly df2.toHTML. Here we have container. So here I've created another test data frame, and let's call our function df and df2. So currently, because my style is empty, so they appear one above another as per normal. So next, I'm going to add dot container, which refers to this entire div over here. And I'm going to set display is equals to flex. And once I do that, notice that my two data frames are now next to each other. However, they are too close to each other, so now let's do something about that. So each data frame will have a class data frame. And let's add some margin to the right side of each data frame. Margin right is, let's say, 30 pixels and important. And now, notice that these 30 pixels do separate our data frames. However, what if we want more than two data frames side by side? We can actually do this. So instead of taking in two data frames, let's make it take in multiple data frames. And in our HTML here, we need to insert all the HTML strings of all our data frames. So let's do it this way. Empty string.join df.toHTML for df in dfs. So now let's create a third data frame. And if I run this, notice that now I have 3 data frames side by side. And I can add even more and it'll still work. And so now I have 4 data frames that are side by side. And thus, this is how we can display multiple data frames side by side in Jupyter. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you have learned something new about Python today.